And on today's show, is prosperity economics better than financial planning? Part 2 of this week's series on the new prosperity economics with registered investment advisor Kim Butler. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician in Innsmark. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to the show, Kim.
Hello, Steve.
Okay, well, you kind of gave us yesterday's introduction, kind of rocked our world here. You kind of want to change the planet. You have 3 books out. We talked about it yesterday. I just want to remind everybody. We have 3 books out on Amazon.com by Kim. One is Busting the Retirement Lies. The second one is Busting Financial Planning Lies, which I will have to talk about that today too. And another one, Live Your Life Insurance. We'll touch on that in a second. All these books are on Amazon.com and also on Kim's site, which is on the lower third. And on top of that, she's giving away the 100 pages from Busting the Financial Planning Lies. You just look at that URL and go ahead and order it, and you can get yourself a free 100 pages of this book. And it's controversial, and that's why you're here on our show today, Kim. This is kind of a major departure from everything we've ever learned. It is. I mean, you're interrupting everybody's practice. You're changing the business model, right? Now, when we're talking about this, you talk about comparing financial planning and prosperity economics. Now, before we get into this, I just want to be able to talk about, let's see if I can do this here. I want to talk about, because you kind of did this yin and yang here, the difference between financial planning and prosperity economics. I'd like you to walk us down this line, this list, and give us each one side by side, and let's manage it, okay? So give me the first one here about financial planning versus prosperity economics, and tell me why those are different.
Sure. So the first thing that listeners would like to know is that this is available on the website, Prosperity Peaks. So if you're interested in getting into this in more detail, it's available for you. But for our conversation today, let's just start with the comparison of typical financial planning, which you do know has only been around since the 1950s or so. That's when the College of Financial Planning came forth. And as we talked about yesterday, I am a recovering certified financial planner.
Wow.
So I have a lot of background in typical financial planning, and I know that it does not work because it meets needs and goals only. So what we do is a financial planner or an advisor, we say, well, what's your need or what's your goal? And we set a numerical number to that, and then we use our computer program to try to get us to that goal. But we're just going to meet the need or the goal. And I have a challenge with that because prosperity economics, which I'm introducing as an alternative to financial planning, says that we are going to pursue wants and dreams because it's based on unlimited ideas of what is possible. Because if we just set the world out there and say, okay, we have this amount of money and we want to optimize it and get the most that we can for it, then that's what we're going to go after, not some limited need or goal that we set. Mm-hmm. See the difference? I do.
Now, so is that the basic premise at the get-go when you're introducing, well, like you're introducing our entire audience to this, when you're introducing this, is that the real differentiator here? You guys, we're all tied in. I myself, we're advisors. We're doing needs and goals only. We're not really incorporating the wants of our client and their dreams. I, as a guy, I'm just saying, maybe a guy thing. I've always said, hey, the math is the math, and that's what I'm trying to achieve here. You're saying there's way bigger. It's very singular. It's dimensional. I'm almost feeling like you're presenting a kind of a glaucoma. We have kind of a tunnel vision, you know.
Well, as we know, the math isn't the math. That's the challenge. Our financial plans work mathematically. And I'm not saying that advisors don't get dreams and goals and wants and needs from their clients. Mm-hmm. But our math is focused on just the need, and that's where I'm challenging. Mm. So is it the only thing? No. That's the whole idea. Prosperity economics, just like financial planning, is much bigger than that, and that's why we have a whole list. Is it the primary one? Yeah, that's why it's at the top of the page.
Now, you give your next little line here is your financial planning, minimize the requirements. How much do I need to save? Which is typical. You're saying optimize opportunities. How else can I build wealth? Is there another mindset? Is there another alternative? There's another option. Tell me about that.
Okay, so the typical client is going to want to save only as little as they can. Nobody likes to save. It's not a fun thing to do. And yet, we know that we need to be saving. So we want to help from the prosperity economics side. Our clients develop alternative income sources, develop additional ways to save that might be more fun. They have to think bigger than just this X dollars every month.
You talk about this area in your third point here, the difference, again, the yin and the yang between product orientation, what you buy, and the idea of being strategy oriented. Talk a little about that.
Well, the products that are out there are the products that are out there. We can't invent another product. Mm-hmm. I mean, I suppose we could, and I know people have tried and companies have tried, but that's not really the point. The key is the difference with what you do with those products. So I'll give you a quick example. You take your basic savings account that everybody should have. We talked yesterday about the difference between saving and investing. Well, if you take your savings account, most people are reinvesting that interest all the time. That's a strategy. The product is the savings account, the reinvestment of the interest is the strategy. My suggestion is we need to change our strategies. And the change in strategy there is to stop reinvesting the interest, take that interest and let it go do something else, another job, which we'll talk about tomorrow.
All right, let's do one more before we go to the break. Focus on rate of return. I thought that was my life. And you say, no, it's focusing on recovering opportunity cost.
So if we chase rate of return all the time, then we're looking at history, and we're trying to make history help us in the future, and that's not always the best way to do it. So we want to instead start reducing those costs, the fees, the taxes, and the lost opportunity costs that are eroding our wealth.
So you're transferring the earnings of that account to get them out from under those costs. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's correct.
We come back from the break. We're going to continue down Kim's list and mind-blowing change of paradigm that she's suggesting. We'll be back after the commercial. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Of course, we're with registered investment advisor Kim Butler, who is blowing my mind. She's telling us the difference between financial planning and prosperity economics. Let's talk about this institutions that control your money. I mean, what other choices do I have? You can control your money since when?
Absolutely. Goes back to the strategies that we were just talking about. When you move interest, and this is a very simple example, but when you move interest off that savings account, you're in control of your money. When you leave that interest to be reinvested, and now we can think bigger, think mutual funds and stocks and bonds and the other places where we reinvest. If you reinvest, the institutions control your money.
So you're saying this change, how big a change, just by doing that maneuver, is that a big deal?
It is absolutely long term. So advisors are always trying to get our clients to look out 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So when you look long term, it absolutely makes a difference. On somebody's little $5 savings account, no, of course it doesn't make a difference. But when we're thinking longer term, bigger picture, yes.
You show this next one this is kind of like micromanagement based versus macro, the bigger picture. You told the difference between focusing like a laser beam on the portfolio, which most of us do, and the difference is viewing your whole personal economy. What's the difference there?
So as an example, people will say, well, I don't put my insurance money with my investment money. Yes, you do. It's all one personal economy. And so many advisors are only focused on the portfolio, and that's not accurate. Now, I think as an advisor group, we're starting to get better, but I think we can do better faster. We need to be looking at the entire personal economy, at absolutely everything that's going on with every dollar of that person's personal monetary economy.
I noticed one here where we might even have some common ground. Net worth is a measurement, which is under financial planning. Cash flow is a measurement. And I think we have seen our industry kind of drift over to this new thinking. Talk about that.
Well, it used to be assets under management, net worth. That was the measurement, net worth, and the clients were all focused on it. But net worth doesn't pay the bills. Net worth doesn't put food on the table, and net worth doesn't take us on vacation. So we want to have cash flow. And you're right, it's a shift and it's a tough one because not all of our assets generate income. So we start working on people's cash flow when they're 20 and 30 years old, not waiting until they're 60, 70, 80 years old.
This next one seems to spark a little interest in my mind here. Retirement-oriented, which I always am, but you're saying no, freedom-oriented. Tell me what you're trying to say here.
Well, as you know, in one of the books, Busting the Retirement Lies, I talk about how detrimental the idea of retirement is because it does not help us financially, it doesn't help us physically, it doesn't help us emotionally, socially, and a myriad of other ways. So instead of being so retirement oriented with our money and having this magical age 65, which doesn't really mean anything to anybody, it's just a number that somebody picked up sometime in history, let's just focus on freedom, financial freedom, and having our money be in our control so that we can be free with it. That's very different than being focused on retirement all the time, which I think retirement should be retired.
Well, when I hear you say that, you're saying money has a greater dimension than what we've been using it for.
Yes.
Okay. Well, lives, I like this, lives on only on interest or spend and replace principal. Now, I know we're at the mercy of interest rates. It seems that way, but you say maybe not.
Exactly. In fact, we can prove with some software that we'll talk about in a couple days how if you spend and replace principal, your family is so much better off than if you're only relying on the interest rates, because the interest rates fluctuate and that causes our monetary cash flow to fluctuate, but our lives don't fluctuate like that. So we want to be spending and replacing principal in every generation.
You bring up this idea about how the way we're doing it now in financial planning is really stagnation. Money stands still. But you say, no, money's always in motion. Then you're thinking in the prosperity module that you talk about.
That's right. So think about our economy. Think about our bodies. Think about anything that is living. When things are living, things are moving. But when money stands still, just like if the blood in our bodies stood still, that is not a good thing. It causes it to be stagnant, and they're subject to more fees, more opportunity costs, and more taxes. Where if money's moving all the time, and we'll talk about that tomorrow in our 7 principles of prosperity, then it is doing better for us, we're in more control, and it lets us do all these other things we've talked about.
Now, you talk about myopic thinking, and this is where this gets destroyed. You talk about the dollars doing only one job, which is easy for me. I'm a single task kind of a guy. But now you're saying, no, your dollars need to do multiple jobs. It needs to be multitasking.
That's right. And because money is moving, it can multitask. Here's an example. Go back to our savings account. If we can get the interest off the savings account into somewhere else, then that interest can go do another job. That might be paying for car insurance, something real simple. It might be paying for a college education. It might be doing a variety of other jobs that we want money to do. Whereas the old way of just money accumulating in the account is going to have the money stay still. So these things are relating and they're going together. If money's moving, then it can do lots of jobs. And that brings us to the last point.
Professional planning is the expert. No, you say clients are empowered, and there's a difference there. I thought we were both on the same team.
Well, we can be the expert, but the clients need to have the empowerment so that they can be the expert too. This is not the old days where I have all my knowledge and I'm going to keep it here and then maybe share it a little bit with you. This is the new days where we're going to offer our knowledge. It's out there anyway. Let's get the knowledge out there and let the client be back in control with their empowerment because they too have the knowledge.
I really love this part because everybody's out on Google asking all these questions. There's a mountain of actual material out there that clients can get to, including people like yourself writing these books. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.